is a document that the government of Barbados and the people of Barbados can be justly proud. I go further to say, Madam Deputy Speaker, this document lays out very, very clearly growth at 4.5%, something positive that we can all be justly proud. Unemployment in single digits, the lowest that we have seen point to point almost for decades, 6.9%, something that we can be justly proud of. Reserves at 3.2 billion. Need I remind this honorable chamber that when we came to office, reserves were 1/8 of what they are there. 1/8 of the amount of reserves, foreign reserves that we have now. And capital expenditure booming across this country. You know, every indicator, every matrix of an economy that is performing is in this fiscal document, this resolution. You know, Madam Deputy Speaker, in the dark days, the Triple D I call it, the dark days of the Dems. In the dark days of the Dems, Madam Deputy Speaker, if they had had a report like this, would they be parading up and down this country? They would have been. But there was no report like this under the dark days of the Democratic Labour Party. None. There was no reserves at 3 billion, 400 million and less. There was no unemployment at 6.9%. It was 10, 12, 14% and climbing. Don't talk about growth. Don't talk about growth. Madam Deputy Speaker, for 10 years under the last administration, the struggle to get 1% could not even get a 1% growth. And this country is now able to see 4.5% growth. This is something that this government has worked towards, and we are proud of it. And we continue to be proud of what this government has done. And that is what this resolution is about, to lay bare to all and sundry what we have been able to do and how we've been able to do it. You know, Madam Deputy Speaker, the honourable member suggested that this is nothing special, that all through the Caribbean, people are experiencing wonderful growth. So it encouraged me to go and look at the numbers and see, is this true? Because I know that we are proud of what growth we have in Barbados, 4.5%. But in Bahamas, Madam Deputy Speaker, their growth, 1.8%. In Jamaica, their growth for the same period, 2.0%. In St. Lucia, their growth for the same period, 2.9%. Of course, I could not say Guyana, because Guyana is growing much better at 38%. But it is not that we are boasting about what we are doing, but we can be proud because it is showing that our programs and our policies are working and getting to the people and bringing this economy forward and lifting up Barbados and by extension, its people. And that's what this is about. And that's what this resolution is about. It is about building infrastructure, building the economy, and building it all through every sector of the society. But you know what troubled me most, Madam Deputy Speaker, in the honourable member's presentation? It was sad, and it is troubling when you see a political party move from its philosophical moorings. It spells trouble. When the last administration moved from its philosophical mooring and took away the opportunity for tertiary education for the young people of this country, it spelled trouble. And their reward was what they got in 2018 for that. They moved away from their philosophical mooring. Trouble was on the horizon, and they were justly rewarded. Again, we are hearing that they want to move away from the philosophical mooring that started with the very excellent Errol Walton Barrow when he built the first large hotel in Barbados, the Hilton Hotel, recognizing that we had to encourage tourism in this country if we were going to survive, recognizing that we had to give concessions for people to come and invest in this country. And he didn't stop there at the Hilton Hotel. There was also a hotel called Holiday Inn. That concessions were given to them too. Many people don't know that the land that Holiday Inn stands on is state land. State land. Provided by the Democratic Labour Party. We also put the Cruising Club. For those of you who don't know, the founding member of the Cruising Club was the same founder of the Democratic Labour Party. And he put that on the same land. Where Holiday Inn, it was called the Holiday Inn, it's now called the Radisson. I know, I grew up in the area, I know exactly all about it. And for the Honourable Member to suggest that we are only looking after one side of the economy and one side of the society by supporting and doing the exact same thing that the founding member of the Democratic Labour Party did, you have to be careful. You will get the same reward as the previous when they moved away from their philosophical mooring. This is an extremely important time. And I want the people of Barbados to understand that this country is going forward. Every single indicator is in the right direction. We are doing lots of construction. And I'm happy to see construction led this growth by 7.1%. And it's not only bricks and mortar. It's not only bricks and mortar. Those of you who pass on the ABC Highway would see by Gildan a structure that is going up very, very quickly that people are calling the spaceship. But it is not a spaceship. It is a structure made of steel as its support and a Kevlar fabric around it that will be housing the digitization center and also a life sciences park building out that facility because we are thinking outside of the box, using new ideas and using new technologies to be able to bring a sustainable development and a growth path for this country. And that's what this is about. And let me say, Madam Deputy Speaker, infrastructure is not only about buildings. Infrastructure is not only about hotels. Infrastructure includes digital infrastructure, and we're building that out. Infrastructure includes airport, seaport, cultural infrastructure as well. All of these things, one by one, we are tackling to be able to make Barbados better. And that is why we're going to continue to see growth. And you know, there's a saying, Madam Deputy Speaker, that people shop at Macy's because people shop at Macy's. And when investors see the number of investments that we're seeing throughout this country, the hotels that we're seeing, the villa construction that we're seeing, the mall construction that we're seeing, when investors see that, they say there has to be something happening in Barbados. And they themselves are encouraged to come and bring more investments. And that's exactly what we want to see. I would find it hard to believe that the Honourable Member does not want investment in this country. I could not imagine that that would be possible. That the Honourable Member, who purports to be Leader of the Opposition, of course, a Leader of the Opposition wants to, at some point, I would imagine, have an ambition to become the government. But his naivety surely precludes any opportunity that he would then be able to take such high office. And he shows his naivety time and time again, not remembering the philosophy of his own party, not understanding that investment is absolutely essential for this country, not understanding that investment is not only local investment, but foreign direct investment as well. And everything working together to lift this country up and take us forward. This is the important thing. And further, let me be clear. Let me be pellucidly clear. I heard the Honourable Member for Christchurch East Central warn people about Ponzi schemes. I heard it very, very clearly. And I agree with him 100%. You know why? Because I remember when the last administration was getting into bed with Clicquot. And that particular matter that they were selling, I told this honorable chamber that that is a Ponzi scheme and it would crash. I told them that there was somebody named Dupre that was praying all over the Caribbean, praying on St. Lucia, praying on St. Vincent, praying on Dominica, praying on people all over. And the worst thing that that administration could do is get into bed with them. But they didn't listen to me. They didn't listen to me. And when it crashed, a whole prime minister rushing up to a central bank governor, begging for money to prop them up. You all remember it? Saw it on CBC? A whole prime minister rush up to the central bank and beg for $3 million. The same Ponzi scheme, a whole government gone in a Ponzi scheme. I fully support and explain and appreciate what the Honourable Member said and caution Barbadians. Because we are here not only to do government's business, but also to protect poor people. And if the Honourable Member don't believe in protecting poor people, maybe he should, get up on a point of order now. You don't believe in protecting poor people? If you don't believe in protecting, get up on the point of order. You get up on the point of order now, Honourable Member. No, you get up on the point of order and say you don't believe in protecting poor people. Get up and say you don't believe in protecting poor people. I want this country, I want this chamber, for the Honourable Member in his silence has obviously agreed that he don't believe in protecting poor people. But that is not the feeling on this side. We believe in protecting poor people. We believe in making sure that people's rights are observed, and also we believe that if they are going down the wrong road, we have to give them the right advice. So I agree with the Honourable Member, making it clear, there's a saying, if it is too good to be true, it probably is not true. And if people are offering you all sorts of returns in quick order, it probably is not true. And be warned, because there are lots of charlatans out there, not only on that side, there are lots of charlatans out there that are prepared to take your money from you. This resolution, Madam Deputy Speaker, tells a story. And the government of 6 years, we have a story to tell. We have faced many obstacles. We have faced many trials and many tribulations. From a pandemic to volcanic to the hurricane, all of these. But we have weathered them and weathered them well. We have steered the ship of state and brought it through, and we continue on a trajectory that is positive. You know, Madam Deputy Speaker, when you hear the Honourable Member on that side speak about debt, you would think that the Democratic Labour Party was this great purview of managing debt. But we all know that they have no moral authority whatsoever to discuss debt. They took us to the stratosphere of debt in the world. The stratosphere of debt in the world, Madam Deputy Speaker. We had never ever been the third highest indebted country in the world till the Democratic Labour Party. And yet the Democratic Labour Party's chief spokesman comes to lecture us on debt. When they demitted office, Madam Deputy Speaker, the debt was 140% of territory. Or in that region, I can't remember the exact number, but 140% of gross domestic product. Enough percent. That's a whole and a half. 176% of gross domestic product. You would not believe, Madam Deputy Speaker, that in this very same document, the Honourable Member he read out all sorts of parts, but failed to read out that the debt is now 105 and trajecting downward, and very soon, I anticipate, that debt in this country will soon be in double digits and not triple digits like it was under them. A tremendous achievement of this government and of this country, because it's not only the government that did it, it's the country working with the government that did it. So there's nobody in the Democratic Labour Party that could tell us, lecture us, explain to us nothing about debt. Because they had an experiment about printing money. Well, we now know printing money does not work. Does not work. We know, and we are doing it every single day, the only way to get out of a problem that they had, that they put us in, is to grow yourself out of the problem. You have to grow yourself out. You cannot borrow yourself out of the problem. And that is exactly why our growth trajectory is where it is. Because we recognize that growth must be our number one job. Growth sector by sector by sector to get ourselves out of debt. And that's exactly what we have done. And that's why our debt is coming down. And I fully anticipate, and I will be rejoicing and celebrating when our debt gets less than triple digits, into double digits. And that's what we need to do. And the unfortunate thing, Madam Deputy Speaker, is when people on the other side that hear our voice, hear the Honourable Member suggesting that this was wrong and that was wrong. What he said? A failed government. But if there was any failed government, it was the Democratic Labour Party. If there was any failed government, there was the Democratic Labour Party. This government is performing, not failing. This government is seeing success, and the record is clear. And for him to fly in the face of the record, well, that's his choice. I guess leave the opposition have to do what they're being paid for, to oppose. And the Honourable Member decides that he must oppose every single thing, speak for 3 hours or whatever, but say nothing. 4, but yet still say nothing. As loud as he can, but say nothing that resonates with the people of this country. If there is nothing else, I want the people of this country to hear, and hear me clearly. Every single metric or measure of an economy for Barbados at this present time is doing well. Every single one. And this is why the people that invest all over the world are coming to invest in Barbados. Because they read it, they see it, and they see confidence in this country. Confidence. That at lunchtime, I met with my Prime Minister and myself met with another group, local group, who are looking to do another infrastructure project, to build another hotel in Barbados. And this is something that we meet people all the time who want to invest. Nobody, Madam Deputy Speaker, nobody is going to invest in a country that is failing. Well, we know that. Well, we saw it under the Democratic Labour Party. We talk about, the Honourable Member talk about loans this and loans that. But the reason they had to print money is because nobody would lend them. Nobody would take on the risk of the Democratic Labour Party administration and lend them, so they had to resort to what they could do themselves, print money. And that's the problem. Contrary, in this administration, people are prepared to lend us because they see that we are doing well. that we are encouraging growth, that we are encouraging investment, that we are making things happen, and people are coming here to invest and get on the train with us. And that is exactly what we are trying to do, and that is exactly what we must encourage time and time again. I want to say, Madam Deputy Speaker, that this resolution is but a point in time. But we anticipate that things will get even better. And we are working every day to make things better. We're working to sustain the growth and make it better. Take it from 4.6 to 5, even to 6, if we can get it there. If we could get unemployment to 4%, that's exactly where we want to go. Because we're not, although this is good, it is not what we want better. Because we know that the people in this country have it in them to strive and do a really good job. We know the potential, we know the opportunity, and it is our job to create those opportunities so people can live their best lives and do the best for the people of this country. I want to say, Madam Deputy Speaker, that throughout this administration's life, we have strived to make things better. Are we perfect? No. Do we strive to make things better? Yes. Do we learn from our mistakes? Yes. Unlike the Democratic Party, who has not learned from its mistake and still moving away from its philosophical mooring. It won't work. You will be rewarded with the same thing your predecessor got rewarded with. The honourable member came and offered warnings. I could offer warnings to him too. So if you want to go down in history as the second person that led that party and led it to another defeat, and I don't know how bad the defeat will be, but you continue on that trajectory. But I would suggest to you that you will be rewarded in a similar way. Stick to what your philosophy is. Recognize that you do not have to oppose everything. Recognize that in this country, investment is critical, foreign direct investment is important, and tourists coming to our country and people building opportunities for accommodation has been the lifeblood of this country for decades, started by the Right Excellent Earl Walton Barrow, the leader and the founder of the party that you now purport to lead. And for you to now come and criticize that work and criticize this government for doing exactly what your founder did is, well, I wouldn't want to say the word that I would say because you would tell me that that is unparliamentary. So let me just say it is a travesty, and maybe the honourable member got up on a wrong side of the bed and, tried to write his speech as he's read the document, going paragraph by paragraph, and recognizes he obviously made some mistakes, tried to correct them in between, but could not take back. This is a serious matter. This is what we have done, and this shows the people what we continue to do. So I, Madam Deputy Speaker, will just want to add one final thing. I want to wish the great people of Christchurch West a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I don't know whether we'll be coming back. I also noted, apart from one sentence about Dover and Oistins, I remember, did not remember his constituencies or his constituent. I think he's accepted that he's not going back there, and he's obviously looking further afield to some other constituency. But don't worry, we have a proper candidate that will become the member for Christchurch South very, very shortly, whenever the Prime Minister calls that time. But it is, if it were not for the diligence and their confidence in me, I would not be here today. From 2003 to now, in 2024, I've been able to come to this honourable chamber. I have seen many people come through this chamber. many with great ambition, but true, few were chosen. Many who had great destinies and came with great intelligence, but did not deliver. And I didn't put the honourable member in that category, but just to remind him, keep with the philosophical moorings of your party, because if you don't, your reward will be the same as your predecessor. Honourable member, Madam Deputy Speaker, I'm obliged.
Honourable member for City.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. I won't detain the chamber long, but I would like to start off by saying that it is one of my basic tenets and training that I got over the years was the importance of, if you're going to go into leadership, it was necessary to prepare yourself, and that you should come with substance, you should come with some level of competence, but the most important thing is to act with integrity, that people can trust your word. And sometimes people try to get into a space before they are ready. And that lack of readiness results in showcasing the underlying weaknesses that are there, because we're in the public space and we're in the public eye. I know that from time to time, the honourable member for Christchurch South has had difficulty with keeping up with information or understanding how things are done, and therefore falls into the trap of projecting information that demonstrates he does not understand how government works, how an economy works, and how you provide for people. And I start by saying this because one of the things that stunned me at first, I didn't mention it earlier, but one of the things that stunned me was the fact that the honourable member for Christchurch East Central had laid a ministerial statement in this same parliament less than 2 weeks ago, in which he went into this particular statement talking about how the economy was functioning, what was happening in relation to the things that Barbados was doing, etc. And he did a ministerial statement. And that preceded the resolution then that we laid today. And therefore, it was a surprise to me that he obviously had missed all of that and felt that he had to waste the Parliament's time by pulling out pieces from out of the document, trying to maintain that he, in some way, was here to educate the public because the public had missed something. But he was there, he was not there last week or a week before, and obviously missed that entire thing. He also made a statement that was a little stunning, simply because he talked about being careful and things about bullets and so on. But the truth is, Madam Speaker, the people who really dodged the bullet were the people of Barbados. And every time he speaks, I'm convinced more and more that this country dodged a bullet. And by making their choice, the choice of the Barbados Labour Party to represent them, to take the perilous situation that we found ourselves in and took it and straightened it out and managed the affairs in very tumultuous conditions, and to be able to bring Barbados out like a shining star, performing exceedingly well. So I just want to take a few minutes to draw to the attention of the honourable member and to those who may have been confused by some of the things that he was sharing, a different understanding of why you do what you do. When you care for small shops and small people and small businesses, one of the things you recognize is that you have to lay the economic foundation in such a way that they can function. Now, a small shop, in order to function, has to gather inputs to put in the shop to sell. Otherwise, they cannot feed their children. And that requires foreign reserves. Now, when you hand over an economy with only $400 million in foreign reserves, which means that it cannot manage for 12 weeks to provide for people, you've now put every small shop at risk. And if you are a government that is faced with that situation, where your enterprises are not firing because your unemployment is high, people are not spending, you're not earning the foreign exchange, then what is it you do? You have to clean up your accounts, you have to clean up your debt, and then put yourself in a position where you can command the resources that will help you to jumpstart your economy from your small shops all the way up to your big hotels. And that means you have to get foreign reserves. And when your economy is not firing, the only way to get them is to borrow. But to borrow is not begging, because you are paying back. This is not like a household where you missing a little bit of sugar or flour, you don't have any money to buy it, and you go next door and you beg or you borrow. That's not what it is. Every single country in this world borrows, and you can only borrow if you have good economic management of your economy. And Barbados has been able to make that grade over the past 6 years under the Barbados Labour Party, led by Mia Amor-Motley. It's as simple as that. The Honourable Member for St. Michael Northeast. By putting ourselves in the position to be able to get the loans, to be able to create the foreign reserves, we were able to make way for the recovery of tourism, because tourism has to consume foreign reserves in order to create foreign reserves, because you have to import a number of goods, etc., in order to make a hotel run. You need it for your small shops. If you're going to restart your economy with a construction industry where you are seeking to attract billions of dollars in construction, you have to have the foreign reserves to get the cement, to get the wood, to get the supplies. And this is how you're going to be able to create jobs for who? Your young people. Those families who are depending on a young man to be able to go and do some work and be able to come in and put down some money. When they're able to spend that money in those shops, when they're able to spend that money with their families, and those families go out and spend across the economy, what happens then is that we are able then to create jobs in your retail sector, because as they get more business, they have to hire more people. When you want to make your economy work, you have to understand the strategy. So when the Honourable Member, Leader of the Opposition, could talk about how much of your foreign reserves come from loans versus come from earnings, I knew he had completely misunderstood what the strategy was. Because obviously, their plan would have been not to borrow, which means every single business in Barbados would have stayed in the dirt, would have stayed down in that hole that they had dug for them, and they would never have been able to get us out from where we were as a country. I was also deeply kerfuffled, Madam Speaker, when he spoke about what we did to the NIS and how we gave them a haircut of $1 billion, and how we adjusted the age at which people could get their NIS pension, as though he was totally unaware of the peril in which the Democratic Labour Party had put the NIS. The NIS must have a balanced portfolio, a balance between domestic and foreign investments. Those investments must be in things that are safe enough that they can earn, that the NIS can deliver on its promise to people, that we took money out of their wages and put aside for investment with the promise that we would give them back when they came to a retirement position. And here you had the Democratic Labour Party, who destabilized that portfolio creating too much investment domestically and putting the NIS at risk. And then, when we had to step back in now to rescue the situation, and we did so, yes, they took a haircut, but what we did was we gave them bonds, but we know that they need to get back that money in order that they can rebalance their loan portfolio and have the freedom to be able to go back out into the wider market, know that we have a better credit rating to be able to get a better return on their investment. We gave them back $400 million just about less than 4 weeks ago or so. We did a vote in this chamber that gave them back $400 million of that money that they had in bonds. And yet, all of a sudden, you hear people start quarreling about it. And I'm like, the quarrel when we give them the bonds, and now we give them back the money, it's a problem again. But this happens, ma'am, when people come to office, when people are looking to serve themselves, when they're seeking to be able to project themselves into leadership, into government, and it does not matter what you say, it doesn't matter what you do, it doesn't matter who you fool, as long as you can manipulate the minds of people to give you the opportunity to get into a position of leadership for which you are not ready to function. And that deeply saddened me, man. It deeply saddened me. The test of care and genuineness of care can be found in your ability to identify with hurt or lack wheresoever it is found. And the honourable member for the opposition waxed lyrical, hot, fiery, peppery, up and down, musical. It was like a verbal ballet. A verbal ballet. And it was filled, in the opinion of some, with nauseating pretentiousness. And I'll explain why they thought that. Waxing lyrical on fishermen who are already receiving that income, and those who want to receive can receive as long as they submit the necessary papers, because we will pay until we've paid them all. And waxing lyrical on how they're suffering. But when the honourable member for Christchurch East Central spoke about that scam that deprived dozens and dozens and dozens of Barbadians of money that they had put aside, and they sought to put it in something that they thought would give them some high returns, only to find that they had lost all their money, not an ounce of compassion for that group. I was stunned. Because anyone listening would think that, let me get it right, this is not a patronizing intervention. This is a moral cause. I am in search of justice. And he had no compassion and saw no need to search for justice on behalf of those who'd been scammed, who'd been shamed, and who now find themselves in financial difficulties that they had not anticipated they would have been in today. And I call that pretentiousness. So, Madam Speaker, Deputy Speaker, I just want to say to Barbadians, we have come into a time of change in this world, and fake news, lies, manipulation are more and more becoming the order of the day, where there is absolutely no shame in misrepresenting information, in scaremongering, in concocting other stories with plain facts. And therefore, for me, my concern is that the people of Barbados, to me, are at risk. They're like prey for these predators to come and prey on them and seek to manipulate them. And one of the things I want to encourage Barbadians to do is to read widely, to listen to both sides, to seek out facts. Don't let anybody read and spell for you. Don't just swallow what is said. Go and get the information, go and get the facts, and make the adjustments that you need and make the decisions that you need. Our economy is in better shape than it has been since 2008. It has gone through a battering under the Dems. It has experienced bad fiscal management. And then as we came into office, you had the impact of COVID, you had the impact of the dust storm. We had a number of things that destabilized what we were seeking to do in this country. But now, most of those things are in our rearview mirror and was shared by my honorable colleagues in this chamber. The improvement of moving from $400 million in reserves up to $3.2 billion, moving from debt to GDP ratio of 176 down to 105 speaks of good management, steady hands, competent and innovative thinking and planning, but it also speaks of a people who at their heart are committed to this country. You put our confidence in us to lead you out. You put your confidence in us to take you to a better place. And we will honor that pledge. We will guide and lead with a steady hand in this country to ensure that every Barbadian gets the chance to live that best life. And I want to congratulate the government on the continuous work that we're doing in relation to roads, the work we're doing in relation to education, the work we're doing in relation to health care, and the work that we're doing in terms of building out manufacturing and agriculture. I look forward to my other colleagues sharing on the things that we are doing that has helped us to come to a place of having our economy grow at almost 4%. I thank you, Madam Speaker, Deputy Speaker. I'm obliged for the time.
Central.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. I'm not often lost for words. And I must admit that in rising to wrap up this debate, I've had to be very reflective on what I would say, because we all are aware that the Democratic Labour Party allowed sewage to flow across Christchurch South for the better part of 3 years. And what the public certainly was treated to today was quite reminiscent of the effluent that flowed on those streets. And it is just ironic that it is the member for Christchurch South from whose lips such flowed this afternoon. Because this government, Madam Deputy Speaker, has been quite resolute that the things that we have to put in place to improve the lives of ordinary Barbadians, Madam Deputy Speaker, these are serious issues, not to be trifled with. And therefore, I find it particularly disappointing in the manner in which I couldn't even describe it as a contribution, but since it's Parliament, we will have to suggest and use that type of language. But to be quite frank, Madam Deputy Speaker, I'm not pleased at all. Not pleased at all. Not pleased at all. Now, so let me thank honourable members for their contributions. It is Christmas, after all, Madam Deputy Speaker, and we are of good cheer. And therefore, I will leave that there for what it's worth for the public to over the course of a drink or two, they can reflect on what was presented in this chamber this afternoon. Now, Madam Deputy Speaker, the government of Barbados, and I thought I was reasonably clear without getting into a whole set of numbers and all types of things this morning. But there was one thing that the honourable member said that struck with me because it gave the impression that you were downplaying the importance of an opportunity with respect to investing in rum. And I will repeat it because, Madam Deputy Speaker, our exports of rum is just over $100 million US per year. There is a very clear and aggressive plan, Madam Deputy Speaker, to increase that to $1 billion a year by 2030. And if the honourable member does not understand and appreciate, if the Democratic Labour Party does not understand and appreciate that ordinary Bajans can legitimately participate in helping us achieve that and earn a rate of return as part of that investment, then I don't know, Madam Deputy Speaker, where the honourable member is going, because we want this recovery to be inclusive. And therefore, I don't want nobody to buy a barrel of rum and take it home, and that is nonsense, Madam Deputy Speaker. That is foolishness. And I say so without apology, because it is to give the impression that this is not a serious government. We are talking about the ability for ordinary citizens in this country, Madam Deputy Speaker, ordinary citizens, to fully participate in bona fide investment. And I raise that in the context that people have been defrauded time and time again, Madam Deputy Speaker, by people who come and give promises of a quick return. And I know that the honourable member might wish for a quick return in some, because he spoke about by elections and all types of things that have no relevance at all to the fiscal framework, none whatsoever, Madam Deputy Speaker, except that if it is indeed so, what he's saying, and whoever is elected, you would like to believe that the people would elect that person who would elect a representative who is thinking about how they can advance their cause individually, but as well as the country. And therefore, yes, elections matter. Of course, elections matter, because we saw the results of the election of 2008 and 2013, and the people of Christchurch South were the recipients of the sewage that flowed on the streets, and the rest of the country, Madam Deputy Speaker, because of a lack of leadership, a lack of focus, imagination, and to be quite honest, Madam Deputy Speaker, the ability to solve simple things. And let us not try to create the impression as if things are easy. And I think that sometimes, Madam Deputy Speaker, as we have done all of the work that we've done over the last 6 years, to the Leader of the Opposition in the Democratic Labour Party, it might look easy. And therefore, because things are back on track, in spite of all of the challenges that we are facing, the presumption is it's easy. And therefore, you can get up in here and talk all through the windows, the ceiling and everything, Madam Deputy Speaker, but have not connected with anything that is substantive, Madam Deputy Speaker, with respect to how you're going to improve people's lives. And therefore, I know that we, all 30 of us, spent hours going through the policy matrix before we came to office, and we have been executing that policy matrix. We call it a manifesto, and we've delivered on the promises in the manifestos in 2018, in 2022, Madam Deputy Speaker, because we determined that we were going to make sure that we focus on what was required to help people, and we continue to execute on that mandate, Madam Deputy Speaker. So therefore, this fiscal framework resolution that we're discussing here this evening, Madam Deputy Speaker, it is truly fundamental as to how we are going to help people live better in this country going forward. And therefore, when we speak to the issues of training opportunities, that not one training program was introduced for young people in this country between 2008 and 2018. Not one. When all of us canvassed the country, we saw hundreds of people in our communities, Madam Deputy Speaker, who left school. Who left school? They had no work, no opportunity, nothing. And this government determined that we were going to do something about that. And therefore, as we seek to build out now and try to recover the experience deficit, because the Minister of Labour can attest, but the Honourable Member for Christchurch West can also attest, that we are facing a shortage of skills in this country right now. Not because of anything that the Barbados Labour Party did or didn't do. We are trying to play catch up. Catch up. Because there was no investment in human capital under the Democratic Labour Party between 2008 and 2018. So you could stand up and hear, Honourable Member, and let what flowed from your lips this afternoon continue. But we are focused on the things that are going to make people's lives better. All I say to Barbadians at this Christmas time is that as we move into 2025, do not get distracted with foolishness, Madam Deputy Speaker. Do not get distracted with foolishness. We have to focus on what is going to improve the lives of people. And therefore, whether it is investment in it is important that Bajans appreciate that when we speak about the bioeconomy, Madam Deputy Speaker, because, the Honourable Member asked a lot of questions. He spoke about the heritage economy and the heritage district. He spoke about the bioeconomy, and he don't understand, one, the story of Barbados is the story of rum, Madam Deputy Speaker, and vice versa. And that rum, as the first, relatively the first innovation, when you think about the science of it, it is the definition of how a bioeconomy works, Madam Deputy Speaker. And therefore, to try to make light of the fact that Barbados invented rum, and that we want Bajans now, Madam Deputy Speaker, that whilst we are seeing investment crowding into the rum space, that we want Bajans to also be a part of that. And therefore, if the Honourable Member wants to make light of that, then that is his business. But I say to Bajans, when the opportunity arises, rather than thinking that you can get a 200% return in a few days, or 300% in 2 weeks, or whatever people are promising you, which are not real, we know where we are taking the rum industry. And therefore, from that perspective, Madam Deputy Speaker, as the rum ages in the cask, you understand? Accumulating value, Madam Deputy Speaker, and when bottled in the limited edition, every time you speak to any of the distilleries, they tell you that every time they put out a limited edition, they fly off the shelf, Madam Deputy Speaker. You understand? The kind of money that will make your head grow if you had here, if I had here, Madam Deputy Speaker. But this is serious. And therefore, if we are going to ensure that generational wealth can be passed on, Madam Deputy Speaker, these are the hard nuts and bolts things that we have to get right. And that's why I said this morning, Madam Deputy Speaker, that anybody come and ask you to put money in anything, and you ask them what is it that is going to be traded, that is supporting this rate of return, and they can't tell you what it is, who producing it, what part is selling it, who buying it, Madam Deputy Speaker, left it out. Left it out. Because 2025 is not just the gathering that is coming, and we talk about exports, and therefore when Bajans come home, Madam Deputy Speaker, and as part of the diaspora, reconnect, not just the increase in arrivals, but reconnecting and helping to invest in opportunities with Bajans, and as I said earlier, with the support of IDB Lab to try to ensure that our entrepreneurs who are innovating, as you know, Madam Deputy Speaker, we have the Future Barbados project, which we are advancing, and therefore, if we can find these opportunities where not just people in the diaspora can help to invest, because people got connections all over the world, Madam Deputy Speaker, and once people are prepared to work together, then I'm confident that this strategy with respect to having a private sector export-led growth initiative will take root. But it can only take root and people feel it, Madam Deputy Speaker, if they are involved. And therefore, I make no apologies for it, because I gave an example, which I know is something that the Democratic Party cannot tell Bajans how to do anything, because all that came from them was tax this, tax this, tax this, tax that. No confidence. And therefore, we have set about the task of ensuring that people see and feel things. So I will repeat it again. The Honourable Member for Christchurch West, there are so much construction projects in this country. The Honourable Member, despite what the Honourable Member for Christchurch South is saying, not just that Hope building houses, but ordinary Barbadians building houses across the length and breadth of this country, and housing, which is private investment, Madam Deputy Speaker, your constituents and my constituents and everybody considering here, investing in Barbados in spite of what the Honourable Member from Christchurch South is saying. And that too would require more people with skills to keep up with the demand. As you know as well, Madam Deputy Speaker, we have been putting on the Construction Gateway Program. The Honourable Member for my neighbour from Christchurch West Central will attest. All the freighting and not just from the construction, but in the cleaning of your environs. We need more people with backhoe capability, bobcat capability to keep up with the demand for both construction and the environmental components, given we've already signaled to the country that we want people to clean up around the place, and people start already, Madam Deputy Speaker. There's just so much work that needs to be done, and therefore I say again to any young person, there are opportunities right now, and I repeat it again, as these hotels and villas and the same things that the Honourable Member complaining about, when they're finished constructed, Madam Deputy Speaker, and the jobs are available, I say to the young people or whoever else who may be interested in hearing, there are training opportunities being provided by the Ministry of Education. They're free, and therefore there is no excuse for anybody who wants work not to be able to put themselves in a position to be hired. And therefore, this government ain't talking about it, Madam Deputy Speaker, we're doing it. And therefore, rather than help people to match with the opportunities, and to be quite frank, Madam Deputy Speaker, you and I both know that the opportunity is not going to come up the Parliament steps and come sit down in anybody's lap in here. You got to get up and go and make yourself available, Madam Deputy Speaker, for what is going on. And therefore, as we, as government, try to chart and navigate a course in the midst of all of what is happening globally, at the beginning of this month, today is the 17th, to the best of my knowledge, at the beginning of this month, since the beginning of this month, we've had I think about 4 governments, Madam Deputy Speaker, that has fallen, if my memory serves me correctly. About 4. You cannot take this thing lightly. You cannot take this thing lightly. And therefore, we are very fortunate in Barbados to have stability in spite of everything that's happened with the Democratic Party, because the reality of it is, Madam Deputy Speaker, that when we took over office in 2018, their record, nobody had any obligation to help Barbados, because all the messages that were given to them leading up to that point, it was pure pride and arrogance, Madam Deputy Speaker, fobbing off all types of people telling them no, nobody had to help Barbados. But people understood that a stable Barbados is important for a stable region. And therefore, we cannot take this thing lightly. And therefore, it is important that we appreciate that as we try to maintain a positive growth trajectory, that it is important that you have a set of institutions that you know are capable of not just being stable, but being able to deliver on the various mandates. Now, I could go on and on and on and on about all the drama that has taken place in George Street for this whole year. We could, because that is not the example that any of us would want to give anybody confidence that we would be able to lead a country if we exhibited that kind of behavior. But the reality of it is that people notice that. People notice that. And therefore, it is a reflection. It is a reflection on Barbados. And therefore, we must all take our words and our actions seriously, Madam Deputy Speaker, because when we get up in here, Madam Deputy Speaker, we aren't just representing ourselves, individual constituents. We stand up in here and we represent Barbados. And people listen to what we say in that context. And therefore, a word to the wise, Madam Deputy Speaker, is sufficient on that. Now, I will be very brief because the Honourable Member seems to think that somehow, that the more you talk, that somehow, you know, I have a good friend that sometimes says that people just like to air them out. That is not my style, Madam Deputy Speaker. So, this fiscal framework strategy maps out at a high level the things that we know we should continue to do. All I ask Barbadians is to help us do them faster. Because the sooner we can get these things done, it means that the benefits start to flow sooner, Madam Deputy Speaker. And therefore, all that the government has been able to achieve so far and will continue to do into 2025, I say to people, let us see how quickly, if we can halve the amount of time it takes to get stuff done, that will make a significant difference to the fortunes for not just for 2025, but beyond. And therefore, every year, let us commit to being able to see how we can address issues and reduce those times even further, because if we do that year by year by year by year, then the investment that we're asking people to make across a range of areas, I think will pay dividends and therefore allow then for more resources to be crowded in and for us to be able to achieve not just the debt to GDP target by 2035, but a robust economy that, in spite of everything that's happening globally, Madam Deputy Speaker, that we're able to withstand all that confronts us. And so, Madam Deputy Speaker, I am not going to detain the chamber any longer. This is an important resolution, I believe, that will help to signal again the government's commitment to maintaining prudent fiscal management and be able to ensure that we continue to meet our targets. But as we go forward with respect to into 2025 and beyond, that the measures contained in here, and I know that in a few months' time we'll be coming back here in relation to a few matters in relation to some of the budgetary proposals and the updates on that. We will see, Madam Deputy Speaker, not just the successful implementation of this fiscal framework document, but Bajans, Madam Deputy Speaker, as well as those who choose to live in Barbados, will see the benefits of the good work that the Barbados Labour Party has done. And as I wrap up this debate, Madam Deputy Speaker, I take this opportunity to wish not just the constituents of Christchurch Central, but to wish all Barbadians a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, Madam Deputy Speaker, because this is a year that has presented some challenges, but we know that we have been able to rise above that in spite of it and to come out the back end of it much stronger. And so with those 4 words, Madam Deputy Speaker, I beg to move that this resolution do not pass.
The question is that this resolution do not pass. All honourable members in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. I think the ayes have it. This resolution is now passed.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I rise simply to do the honour on behalf of the Government of Barbados, all of my parliamentary colleagues, to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and indeed a happy and prosperous New Year. But as I do so, I am also mindful that in our neighboring country of Trinidad, that parliament has also lost one of its ministers in the Ministry of Education in a recent fire by the name of Lisa Morris Johan. And I would want that perhaps as we close that we can have a minute's silence for the lives that have been lost. And certainly we would want to pay respects to certainly her family and to express condolences, not only on behalf of this parliament, but certainly on behalf of the people of Barbados. I believe Prime Minister Motley has already expressed condolences, but I think all of us in here understand the nature of this time of year and certainly losing a loved one, and I would want certainly that we can express, and I would do so on behalf of the Leader of the Opposition as well, to be able to express sincere condolences on behalf of the people of Barbados to the families that have been affected by this fire. As I close the session for this year, Madam Deputy Speaker, I do so mindful that we've had a fairly rough year. This year has been perhaps no different from many of the others. This Parliament has certainly been doing, I think, more business and more of the people's business than any other parliament. Certainly you, Madam Deputy Speaker, you've been here longer than all of us, and I'm sure you are well aware that the hours and the days that we have kept are unprecedented in terms of the nature of these debates. We have achieved a tremendous lot of work over the course of the last year. We have brought a lot of legislation, transformational legislation, both in the form of the disabilities legislation, which is on the order paper now, will be debated early in the new year. But we've also been doing quite a bit in terms of child protection and also in terms of child justice, and we brought those 2 bills to this chamber earlier. We've also been doing a lot in relation to various policies, whether it's been the sports policy, whether it's been the policy on aging, the policy on disabilities. Again, a tremendous amount of work has gone into the effort to be able to identify as a parliament and certainly as a government the nature of what we would want to see or accomplish over the course of the next couple of years. And I know that the persons who work within CPC have been working tirelessly with the Attorney General to be able, and the Minister of Home Affairs, who acts several times as well, have been working to try to get the legislation to this place so that we can be as transformational in our agenda as possible. In the coming year, we have a number of pieces of legislation that I know the public has been asking for, particularly the legislation that would address the issue of the overgrowth of lots. And I know that that is highly anticipated. I believe the committee is soon ready for us to be able to bring it back to Parliament. And so we should, in the new year, be able to bring the Health Services Amendment Bill, along with a human tissue transplant bill, as well as the stormwater management bill, which will obviously address the issues of drainage across the country and give certainly the drainage unit a lot more teeth in terms of being able to address issues of drainage across our communities. We can also look out for the copyright bill. Again, a major piece of reform in terms of that legislation. And the truth of the matter, ma'am, is that there are going to be several other pieces of legislation in the new year that this Parliament will be asked to consider, which will continue to transform the lives of people. That is what we have come here to do. At times, it seems tiring for the most part, because we put a lot into establishing a new regime, especially now that we're a republic. And I know that the public may not always understand all of what we do, but I want to give the assurance that when we are in this place, and certainly when we are in the Cabinet of Barbados, we are trying to make sure that we do right by the people. We have a number of projects, Madam Deputy Speaker, over the course of the next year that I believe are going to start to allow us to see the growth that is necessary in the economy. We have spent a lot of time trying to stabilize the economy, and I won't go over it, but I think all of my colleagues have spoken at some point in relation to the level of growth that we are starting to see appearing. Of course, we can speak of growth, but unless people feel it in their pockets, they actually don't feel as though we are growing. But I can see that based on the agenda, certainly in the Ministry of Planning and all of the projects that are on the horizon, that we can certainly start to see an uptick, not only in tourism, but also in the construction sector, in the housing sector, and certainly roads and drainage will be high on the agenda for 2025, much to the delight of my colleagues. I certainly, Madam Deputy Speaker, for 2025 will be embarking on another mill and pave program. I won't call it accelerated, but what is for sure is that this Parliament and certainly the people of Barbados have requested of us to do things differently. And if that means that we have to work in the dry months of the year to be able to accelerate the people's business of doing roads and correcting all of the issues of drainage and engineering in this country, then that is what we will have to do in terms of deploying the necessary resources in order to do so. As we celebrate this season, ma'am, I want us to not forget the season that we're in. I heard a colleague on the other side speak not so glowingly of some of the activities that we have engaged in on this side in terms of bringing some cheer and joy and hope to a number of vulnerable people, but also people generally across our communities during this season. It is an unfortunate comment, but one which is to be expected from one who is not accustomed to doing things for our constituents. So I guess we have to expect or not be surprised by what we expect. But to say simply, sir, that, ma'am, that, you know, we gave when we were in opposition, and we gave to the people, and equally in government, we have a responsibility not just to create policies that impact the people, but certainly as representatives to continue to maintain that contact in our communities, whether it is for our children, the able-bodied, the most vulnerable, or whether it is for the elderly within the community. And so I believe that each of us, including the Honourable Leader of the Opposition, when he may have a moment, may reflect on the fact that this is a season for giving and sharing, and I'm sure that he will be inspired to so do in whichever constituency he may choose to run in, because we're clearly not sure which one it is, Madam Deputy Speaker. But I would want that we remember that this is obviously the time of the year where we celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ. It is a period where we look at the fact that we look at other people who are less fortunate, but also that it is a time of reflection on where we have come from in terms of our journey, but also a time of reflection in terms of where we want to go. And I certainly believe that this Parliament has been able to demonstrate a level of seriousness in terms of where we want to go. And certainly our government has been able to demonstrate that we have a vision for this country in terms of being able to ensure that life is a bit easier for all Barbadians, not any one particular subset of Barbadians. I want to thank all of the people who make our job here a lot easier, a lot smoother, to all of the clerks of the Parliament, to the ancillary staff, to the security, both the Barbados Police Service, as well as the security here at Parliament, to all of the staff, the watchmen, all of the staff that make this place enjoyable while we are here. And of course, to the catering staff as well, who make sure that whether it is us as members of Parliament or our guests from time to time, that people are accommodated in this place in a humane manner and that they are able to enjoy their time in this place. To all of the people who have been listening and watching, whether here or abroad, again, I want to thank you as well. And also for the feedback on the legislation that we have passed or legislation that is to be debated. Ma'am, we are made better as a government as a result of our consultative process. of the fact that we pause sometimes and listen. Sometimes we even listen to the leader of the opposition. Not willingly, but we often do. And we also listen to voices that may be contrary to our own positions and try to take from it what is necessary in order to improve what we do once it is in the interest of the people. So, Madam Deputy Speaker, I want to again extend a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to the Leader of the Opposition. I hope that the next year you're able to find your ground in terms of the rest of your party, and certainly the persons who I think were to be named earlier this year, and that things can settle down within the Democratic Labour Party, because we will all be better for that, and certainly you will continue to keep us on our toes. But I certainly wish you good health through you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and hope that in the new year that being truthful and familiar with the facts of a lot of the things that are brought to this place can certainly enlighten you and shed some light on you as we go forward. To you, Madam Deputy Speaker, you have held the helm of this place on behalf of the Speaker, and I want to thank you as well. It has not been easy for you either at times. The Leader of the Opposition has given you much to do in your position as Madam Deputy Speaker, but as usual, you have carried out the business of this place and certainly the business of this government in a very humble but also very firm way. And I want to thank you as well for ensuring that this place is not brought into disrepute. To the Honourable Member for St. Lucie as well, St. Lucie, who also acts from time to time as our chairman of committees. Again, want to thank you for being able to guide us through the process of this place. And again, to all Barbadians, I want us to remember the spirit of the season, that it is a time for giving and caring and sharing. Let us not forget the biblical story on which Christmas has arisen, because sometimes we forget and we get caught up in spending and on things that we may not necessarily need to spend on. But I think this is a time for us to reflect and to be wise in what we do. And I therefore hope that all Barbadians can enjoy the season in some form or fashion, and we look forward to what 2025 may bring for this country in terms of growth and prosperity for all Barbadians. Finally, Madam Deputy Speaker, I want to just wish the Honourable Prime Minister as well a happy Christmas and a blessed New Year. The truth is that while some may be critical of travel, all of us who serve in cabinet and certainly in the parliamentary group and those who work around her, while she works us very hard, we also are well aware of the outstanding work that she has done globally, not only to put Barbados on the map, but to ensure that the necessary financing that this country needs to stabilize is put in place. And I can only pray and hope that God will continue to strengthen her and to allow us to recognize that leadership does matter, not only locally, but it matters globally for Barbados to be able to, as Kofi Annan said many years ago, that Barbados is known for punching above its weight. So there is no question, certainly in our minds on this side, as to whether travel is necessary or whether the cost of travel is necessary. We have seen the result of whether it's grant funding or low concessional funding coming to this country to be able to allow us to build out things from the sewage project, to be able to replace water mains, to be able to improve the lives of Barbadians. Have we got it all right, Madam Deputy Speaker? That is a work in progress. But the truth is that Barbados has done stellar and is continuing to do good work as a result of strong leadership across the globe and certainly locally. And with those few words, Madam Deputy Speaker, I therefore wish everyone a Merry Christmas and an enjoyable and prosperous New Year.
Thank you very much. Honourable Member, Leader of the Opposition.
I join with the Honourable Member for St. Michael South East, only to extend the best wishes for the season to you, ma'am, to all who cared to come here today, to all the staff of this Parliament, to all Barbadians who listen to these debates here and overseas, and in spite of the darkness that looms, to ask everyone here and in this country to be a light in their dark surroundings, and to hope that we will come back, God willing, in January to a country that may have benefited from that light that illumines the darkness that has engulfed us for much of the year. But this is not a political discourse. This is a sincere wish for peace. And when we ask for peace, we ask also for love, because that is the essence of the birth of the greatest man who walked this earth. And I'm a Christian, and those are the views to which I subscribe. So, Your Honor, I thank you. I thank you personally for supervising and conducting the affairs of this Parliament in the past few weeks. I thank you for that. On behalf of the Democratic Labour Party as well, I must express gratitude to you for allowing me to speak in here, to exercise my right of freedom of speech. And on behalf of all Barbadians who, in considerable numbers, do not support the government, I express gratitude to you as well for your conduct of these parliamentary debates, and for the fact, not the miracle, the fact that I have been allowed to speak in here and to speak with freedom. Your Honor, Merry Christmas, and I'm obliged to you.
Honourable members, I wish to also express my gratitude to you, Madam Leader of Government's Business, and you, the Leader of the Opposition, and indeed all the other distinguished members of Parliament who have been here day in and day out whenever we meet to be able to discuss the business of the people of Barbados. I want to also express my gratitude to the members of staff here at this Parliament for their guidance and support in every avenue through which I have gone within the last few weeks. I also wish to remember in our prayers His Honor, the substantive Speaker of this chamber, who is recuperating well, and therefore let us remember him in our prayers. And I join with you, Madam Leader of Government's Business, in relation to the sympathy that has been extended to the former Minister of Trinidad and Tobago and her two children, and we know that that is not an easy task. However, I trust that God will continue to bless the family who remain and to be able to bring some elements of comfort to them. And finally, I wish to thank all you other distinguished members here, members and colleagues, for your kind support and guidance as I've been stepping through like a baby that's now learning to walk in this position. However, the dignity of this chamber has been upheld as compared with times before when we saw it under another administration. There were so many challenges. But let us all continue to work together, trusting and praying that the examples we set here will be followed by those on the outside, because the eyes and the ears are on us. I want to thank you, sir, Leader of the Opposition, for your efforts. I know it has not been easy for you or for us at times. However, we are here to work together to do the government's business, and therefore let us continue in the new year to be able to work assiduously to develop those policies and programs that have been extended to the people of Barbados, and indeed some people in the region. They listen to us and they emulate some of what we do because we are all serving as leaders in our various countries and institutions. I pray that this Christmas will be a safe and blessed one for all of us. We know that there are many challenges on the road when it comes to drivers, accidents, and other things that are happening that are not the norm. However, let us pray for our youth, for the elderly, for the seniors, for those who are disadvantaged, those who are shut-ins in the district hospitals and in other places and homes, because at the end of the day, we are one people, one nation, and we need to lend our support to them. On behalf of my family, on behalf of your families as well, I extend to all Barbadians God's speed, all his blessings as we go through the Christmas season, and pray that we too will be able to continue to do this valiant task that has been assigned to us, so that at the end of it all, we can achieve the goals and all the plans and the projects. At the end of the day, they are for the empowerment of Barbadians. Mr. Clerk and team, thank you too for your guidance and support in every respect. We ask God's blessings on you and your family as well. Merry Christmas to all of you. Merry Christmas to the people of Barbados, the people of the Caribbean, and indeed the people of the world. Thank you very much, and do have a safe and blessed time. God bless you all again. Thank you. I did not remember to say specifically our security downstairs and the police officers and others and other general Barbadians who meet us and say, we're praying for you because we know you have arduous tasks. I thank all of them for their guidance and their support. And at this point in time, ladies and gentlemen, the catering staff, yes, they're included in the staff. Yes, please. And they've been looking after us very well over the past few years, and we want to thank them sincerely for the sacrifices. I want now for all of us, please, to stand and pay that 1 minute's silence in recognition of the outstanding contribution that was made by the Minister of Education in Trinidad, and indeed her children who perished with her, and all Barbadians who will have suffered and died as a result of whatever incidents have occurred that led to their deaths. May we continue to work together as a people to make a difference. Let us have that moment. The souls of the righteous.
Madam.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I therefore beg to move that this House be adjourned until Tuesday, the 7th of January at 10 a.m.
The question is that this Honourable Chamber now be adjourned until Tuesday, January the 7th, 2025 at 10 a.m. All other honourable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Methinks the House have it. Thank you for your kindness.